Do you struggle to say no? I got you, bro. Listen, I got this mindset from Alex Amosi, and I wanted to elaborate on it a bit. And yes, I give credit where credit's due because I don't like particularly like just taking people's ideas and thinking it was like my own original thing, even though I think most things aren't particularly original in nature. We just all hear it from somewhere and spread it. And I'm here to spread this and hopefully help someone that hasn't listened to Alex Amosi, right? Because that's what we're here for. Ripple effects in a community, push everyone to the greater good. But yet again, a point I'm trying to make is how do you say no? And I'm gonna be honest, this is gonna be a very, very simple and short video, probably. Hopefully, I always say that, and it always ends up being long. Uh, so how do you go about saying no, right? Because sometimes we're invited to things or places or scenarios or like or some people, and we have to tell them the hard truth of no, I can't make it there, or no, I can't do this, or no, I can't do that. Whatever maybe you're saying no to, right? And it can be very difficult, especially in the moment. And especially if it's things that maybe we want to go to, maybe we don't. Maybe our boss has called us into work and we're trying to say no to that. And I know most of us want to say no to that. And then, or maybe it's like a very, very special event that you would actually want to go to, but you can't. And I think this applies for both. So you have to think about it like this. You're not saying you are technically saying no to this person, but you're saying yes to something else. So if I'm saying no to a, let's say, party, right? I'm saying yes to doing my work. Does that make sense? Right? If I'm saying, oh, that's crazy wind. If I'm saying no to going to a certain event or things like that, or going anywhere or doing anything, going anywhere. It doesn't matter what. Like, apply this to your scenario right now, right? If someone has asked you to go somewhere or do something or things like that, and your initial reaction, immediate reaction is like in your mind, it's like no, right? You feel it. You're like, no, I don't want to do this, but it's hard to say because you don't want to hurt their feelings. And naturally, as humans, we're like social creatures, and we don't want to make someone think bad about us or make us less desirable to our tribe or our community wherever we are, right? So it's a very, very hard decision, and we don't want to disappoint them. We might not be thinking of our self-interest and how it'll affect us, but we might think about like how it might affect them if we don't go, right? Like it might hurt them a little bit, like, or they did us a favor or whatever, and it might hurt them for us to not like reciprocate that or something along that along those lines. So you have to think, okay, if you're saying no to them, what are you saying yes to? Because that makes it a lot easier. Because whatever you're saying yes to has to mean something to you, right? Has to mean a lot to you. Like if you're saying yes to your work, it has to mean something to you, right? Or um, something along those lines. Like you have to value that more than this thing. Um, well, hold up. Yeah, yeah. People say, I value those things equally, like work, and I do want to go to the special event, but like, if you're wanting to go to work more, it's like you're trying to make an impact or a difference, or at least that's the mindset I'm hoping you're thinking with, and not just because like you want to go and make, some money, which of course there's nothing wrong with that, but like, I'd hope actually enjoy what you're doing and trying to make some sort of progress within like humanity, right? But I think what helps you make that decision is like what do you value more? Like for example, do I value making these videos more um and going about my purpose, or do I value going to one party that I'm probably not going to enjoy very, very much? Again, it goes into the scarcity aspect too. Like how often do I do this thing and do I value doing it, right? So if I don't do it very often, and in this case and scenario I have some people going to me with a party, then I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'll go. But and I'll go without guilt or anything like that because it's like, okay, I'm intentionally doing this. I'm not coping with the fact that it might be like bad for me or whatever and I could be doing something better, but it's like the scarcity of these things is what helps is what makes them so great, and the moderation of them as well. So you're not like stuck on both hard ends of like, oh, I'm stuck here drinking all the goddamn time and not making any progress for my life, or doing drugs, or like always instant gratification, always video games, always doing this stuff, like that isn't progressing me in life. But you're not all the way on the other end, which is like crazy hardworking and things like that. And you can be on this other end, and depending on what you're focusing on, you'll become very, very competent within that domain. Like if you only work, you'll become very, very competent, especially because like, if you're like a doctor or whatever and you're working more than the others, like, you'll be compensated for all that. So, but it just, again, it depends on whether or not you value that. So if you value that more than everything else, of course you're going to do that. But if you value some time with family, things like that, then, you will go about doing that. Again, I digress. It goes into a whole, oh God. Okay. It goes into a whole thing, right? I said I was going to elaborate on the topic of saying no, and I did. So, yeah, if you're going to say no to someone, the short answer is like, think about you saying yes to something else. I think that's the way to frame it, because when you're saying yes to something else, it's like hopefully that thing that you're saying yes to was already like pre-planned and pre-made, and that'll help you be more honest with them too, right? If they say, hey, could you come here so and so, like it'd be great time, we'd have a lot of fun, and you're like, you feel that resistance in your brain, you're like, damn, I either want to go or I don't want to go. You just be honest and you say, no, I can't go. Or let's take that one scenario with the party, right? No, I won't go because I said yes to something else, like a commitment you made elsewhere, right? Like maybe you're hanging out with some other friends, and that's perfectly fine. Just be honest with them, bro. Just be honest with them. And then same thing on the other side. If you're going to work, right, and they're asking you to come in, it's like, okay, I can see how it's a little bit different on this side, right? It's like you're going to say no, but your intentions might not, what you say might not reflect your intentions, which, in some cases you might have to. Let's say you're going through like a mental crisis or something like that, then yeah, that requires you to take like a break and say, okay, no, I can't come in for extra work, or no, I can't do any of that, things like that. But I think it's important to be honest. You don't even necessarily need to elaborate. You could just say no, right? Because not everybody's going to look for that elaboration, and if they do, it's like, well, then you're in a bit of a tricky situation at work, right? It's like, okay, I've said no to them, and I've said no to them about reasons that aren't true, but I am going through something or dealing with something, so you could use like one of your sick days or things along that nature. That work example is a very, very fine line to tread, and you just have to kind of look at what circumstances you're going through and whatnot, and then be able to make that decision. But I think the best way to look at it is like that. And when you really, really think about it like that, you make the conscious decision to think about it like that. Like, again, I hate this concept of like, oh, your mind will default think that way. Oh, like I'm saying no to this person and my mind will automatically think I'm saying yes to something. It's like, no, you have to consciously train your brain to think, oh, if I'm saying no to this person and it's uncomfortable, then I have to consciously train my brain to think about how I'm saying yes to something else and how much that makes me happy to say that yes to that something else. It's like there could be two different scenarios, two ways this goes down. It's like, one, okay, you're saying no to someone and it's uncomfortable, and then it's just, how would I go about doing this? You're not thinking about saying yes to something else, so you're just like, oh no, I'm gonna be doing this, and you're like in a weird mood. You don't look very happy. But when I think about it, right? When I think about it and I consciously train my brain to be like, okay, I'm saying yes to something else, I just tell them, look, hey, no, I said yes to this, or I won't be able to make it to the event today because I have this and this to do, and that just brings a smile on my face knowing that I've already made a commitment somewhere else. Now, of course, it's going to feel bad to them to some degree, but it's like, I think you'd rather just be honest there and then on the spot, so you're not disappointing them. You're not lying to them and being like, "I'll show up," but then you never end up showing up. And I think that's more of a disappointment, because then they're expecting you to show up, kind of thing, right? So reframe your mind like that, and it'll really help lighten up your mood a little bit. You'll feel better about it too. You'll be like, "Oh, I've said no to this because I've said yes to something else." That helps a lot. And the quicker you tell someone that, the better it is, because then they don't have to, people have this habit of expecting something. And of course, why wouldn't they expect you to go now that you've, said yes to going, even though you've lied? So it's better to be honest in the moment and say no. But here in the brotherhood, we know not to expect really much of anything, and be prepared for like the worst case scenario, right? So that's why I've told y'all about that. But most people, they're gonna expect you to show up and be there, and I think that's fair, especially if you gave them your word. And I mean, if a lot of us don't have our word, then that kind of like, it just, our word really means nothing and is unimportant. So we have to make sure, it gets valued properly, and we value it. So yeah, easiest way to say no is to reframe it into a, yes, I've committed myself somewhere else. Or you're saying no to them because you said yes somewhere else. I think that's the best way. Again, I said it was going to be a short video, but it's not. And I had a bit of I was getting a little bit sidetracked this video, so I apologize for that. Like, the quality might not have been there as much as it should be. Because I think this rooster is out, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just brain fogged right now. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. So yeah, but yeah, that's pretty much all I got for y'all. Peace. Take it easy.